So early this morning, Disney Plus went live, had a lot of glitches, but The Mandalorian Episode 1 is up. I watched it. Now let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your take on the first episode of The Mandalorian. This is a spoiler-free review, so don't say any spoilers specifically that reveal at the end of the episode. Don't say that in your headline unless you got a spoiler warning right in front of it. Let's have a nice lively discussion about the first live-action Star Wars TV show of all time. As we go into this, I'm not planning on reviewing each episode week by week. I will have a review at the end of the season of the full season, and unless they have some things I really feel like I need to talk about on my channel, I'm not looking to do this week by week, but I wanted to get my initial thoughts about it out there. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is that this is kind of what I've been waiting for in the world of Star Wars for a while now, and that's a story set in the Star Wars universe that's not between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. It's set at a different point in time after Return of the Jedi. It's not about the Skywalkers, it's not about the Force, it's not about the Jedis, it's not about the Empire, it's just set after the fall of the Empire, so it's referenced a little bit inside of it, but it's just about these characters in this interesting world. The other thing I've also wanted to see is kind of a strong return to some of the early Western influences that played into Star Wars a little bit, especially kind of the with A New Hope. There were just pretty heavy elements that kind of tied back to some stuff that was either the samurai films from Akira Kurosawa or the spaghetti westerns from Sergio Leone, and you saw that in there a bit, and this TV show goes hard on that, and that's something I've wanted to see for a long time. As soon as they started using that language of a Western in the Star Wars universe, I was like, that is exactly what I want to see, and that's what this is. Right out of the gate, you feel the whole vibe of the drifter wanders into the saloon. That sort of thing is what this is. And then he's a bounty hunter, and so many kind of callbacks to the Western genre, but also jam-packed with the Star Wars universe. Like even the theme for The Mandalorian when the title card comes up feels like a Western theme, but with a space vibe to it, with the instrumentation, the way the pieces fall together. I thought all of that worked really nicely inside of it. Also, you have to talk about the production design here and set design, special effects and everything. Clearly they invested a lot of money into this. They didn't skimp on it. It feels like you're watching a very big, expensive production that has cool special effects, big action set pieces, creatures of all sorts of aliens, things like that. Like as a very specific example, there's a sequence inside of it where our Mandalorian has to ride on top of some creatures on this planet, and it takes a little while to get up on top of it, and then they kind of ride off looking for something. And it just reminded me of that sequence on Naboo in Attack of the Clones where you have Anakin trying to ride on top of this weird creature and he falls off, and it just looks terrible. Like it's horrible CGI. And that's a movie that obviously is over 15 years old, but had so much higher of a budget, would have had so much more time to try and get everything right. And it looks awful. And then you just watch what they do here, and it's flawless. It just looks amazing what they're able to do for television these days. We're kind of in a really nice period of time when television can look this good and have a production value this large. The show is also populated by very lively characters. Even people that are only in it for a little bit of time have a personality that kind of pops out a little bit. They're written to feel like people that have lived a life, that have a personality, as opposed to just this fill-in-the-blank person that has to be captured, or this person he just has to talk to. They have more to them than that. Some of it actually reminded me a good bit, not terribly surprising, but of the show Firefly that Joss Whedon did over 15 years ago. Now, that was a space western as well, so it's not terribly surprising that that show that was heavily inspired by Star Wars would feel like a live-action Star Wars show that's trying to be like a western as well. But in particular, as I was watching some of these side characters, their dialogue, the sense of humor related to them, actually felt very Joss Whedon to me. And even as you kind of move into the third act of the episode, where there's a droid that kind of plays into it, he's written to have a bunch of one-liners and things like that. He's like a real fun character to show up and join in on the fun. And even with him, they found a way to give him a distinct style in the way that he shoots that makes him interesting, because we've seen people that are quick draws and things like that before. We've seen droids and things like that, but they designed him in a way that only a droid would function like this and move kind of the way that he moves. But it's interesting. Like, it's a really cool way to do action in this type of setting. So it's something new while being a very familiar type of shootout scenario that we've seen before. And one final specific thing, as the episode kind of comes to a close, there are kind of some big reveals, and the way that things play out, it just kind of makes you go, oh, I can't wait to see what's next. And that's one of the best things you can say about a TV show, is that you end an episode and you can't wait to see where it's going. It raises a bunch of questions and you're curious as to how everything's tied together, where this is going. That's what you want an episode like this. A first episode is supposed to leave you feeling what I felt when this episode ended, in light of the information that's revealed. And even in ways it starts you thinking about the Star Wars universe. What does it mean going forward? What does it mean going backwards? That is a really solid way to end a first episode. In general, as I kind of kicked off the positives here, I really enjoyed that we're in the Star Wars universe and we're just doing something very different. We're getting to have fun in the universe without all the baggage of all the other stuff of the Empire and politics and things like that. We're just going out there to have fun in the Star Wars universe. It's got the stuff that you want from the Star Wars universe while doing something different with it. I love that about it, at least this first episode. With that said, let's move on to the bad. Nothing terribly significant here. It is pretty slow, which, if you understand it's trying to be a Western, Westerns tend to be a little bit slower paced. They've got a good bit of action, but they kind of take their time getting where they're going. That's what this felt like to me, that Western pacing. Also, as you get to the end, you can't wait to see the next one, and it almost made me feel like instead of doing week-to-week episodes, maybe they should have dropped like 2 episodes per week for a month or something like that. And so you get kind of that binge experience, because it felt like just as I started to settle in and get used to this world, get excited about it, the episode's over. I mean, the episode clocks in at under 40 minutes by about 30 seconds, like 39 minutes, 30 seconds. That's our introduction to this series, and you just wish you got more than that. And so I think maybe, especially in the binge era, they made a very bingeable show based off this episode and where it ended. And I think maybe they should have done a hybrid model of how they kind of released the episodes. And then inside of it, some of the ties to the Star Wars universe felt a little bit heavy-handed, or felt a little bit out of sync with the way this world works. Especially in the first little kind of prologue adventure that we go on. Inside of it, we see a toilet in the Star Wars universe, I think for the first time. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and there's been some other reference to a toilet, but there's like this whole thing about a toilet, and you get to see a toilet in Star Wars, and you're like, okay, I've never seen a toilet in Star Wars before, so that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it feels weird to see that. And even the dialogue that the guy's making and referencing, doing something for a millennium. Normally inside of Star Wars world, they use some sort of analogy that we don't connect with. They reference it, like the way people talk in Star Wars is different because they're not from Earth. And so some of that language didn't quite feel like the way Star Wars is normally done. And then likewise in that prologue, there was some Easter eggs to stuff in the Star Wars universe, even some kind of deep cuts, a little holiday special reference in there that maybe is a little bit too heavy-handed. These are nitpicks, though. Very minor things that kind of went, I didn't love that about it, but thought I'd talk about it just a little bit here. In general, a really nice kickoff to a series that I can't wait to, I like, even so much that I can't wait to see the next episode that I referenced that as a negative inside of this review. Real quick, before I give you my final take on this one, go ahead and tell me what you thought down below in the comment section. Remember, put in spoiler warnings. I do not not want to see the big reveal mentioned in the comment section without the word spoilers right in front of it. Also, leading up to Rise of Skywalker, I'm reviewing each of the episodes in the Skywalker saga. Here's the playlist for that right up there. I've got 3 episodes up on that, and then each week I'm going to be putting out a new review until we get to the final piece of the Skywalker saga. While I wouldn't necessarily say that it blew my mind or was absolutely amazing, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed the first episode of The Mandalorian, and I can't wait to see where all of this is going. If you're a Star Wars fan, it is highly recommended. You should check this one out. Or if you're a fan of Westerns and sci-fi and things like that, also I recommend you check it out, even if you're not the biggest Star Wars fan. If you want to check out my reviews for the Skywalker saga, it's right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.